The CSKT Water Compact for the Flathead Indian Reservation has become a source of great controversy in Montana. This treaty-like 1,500-page agreement between the United States, Montana, and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes is so fraught with problems that the only way it was able to navigate its way through the Montana legislature was by changing House rules and willfully disregarding Montana's constitutional requirement that a two-thirds vote is necessary because of immunity language in the compact. This video documents the major problems with the compact as well as the flawed process that almost brought it to reality. There is still a possibility that this unsound and defective agreement could become law. If this happens, let it be known that Montana willingly placed an undue burden upon its citizens, giving them no choice but to legally defend themselves against what can only be seen as the worst state policy decision ever. Montana's decision to move forward with this overreaching compact will open a Pandora's box that will be difficult for Western states to deal with forever into the future. In 1979, Montana created the Compact Commission to negotiate Federal Reserve water rights compacts on behalf of the state. The Commission concluded 17 agreements ahead of the CSKT Compact. These agreements fell under little scrutiny and tended to be rubber-stamped by the Montana legislature and ultimately the Montana Water Court. The lack of oversight allowed the Commission to stretch the notion of Federal Reserve water rights well beyond their legal limitations. Problems with the CSKT compact process include: no claims were filed ahead of negotiations so the state could fully determine the scope of what they were dealing with or negotiating over. This allowed the CSKT to politically leverage threats of filing an unknown number of claims throughout Montana in order to frighten people into accepting a bad compact. Compact negotiations were on again, off again for decades. Over time, the public all but stopped participating in the process. The CSKT never veered from their initial demands, and as the adjudication deadline approached, the state caved into the tribe's unreasonable demands after more than a decade of stating publicly that they were unacceptable. This gave the public the mistaken impression that the state was looking out for them, when in fact Montana gave absolute deference to the tribe in every instance. Instead of determining a specific limited amount of water necessary for the purpose of the reservation, the Commission fabricated an unheard-of tribal reserved water right and used it to award the CSKT time immemorial claims to vast amounts of water in western Montana. The process did not require private property assessments or environmental impact studies, making it impossible to assess the adverse impacts of the compact. While many throughout the country have touted Montana's process as a progressive approach to Federal Reserve water rights, in hindsight, we can't help but wonder just how harmful it may be to Montana's future. A flawed process equals a flawed compact. The CSKT compact is full of significant practical issues, many with the potential to negatively impact 360,000 people residing in western Montana. It will also serve to restrict future growth and development, leaving future generations of Montanans with limited water for their needs. It accomplishes this by creating a new time immemorial tribal reserved water right, giving the United States and CSKT control over the waters of western Montana. Ceding state jurisdiction over water to the tribe and removing many Montana citizens from the protection of the state for their water needs. Failing to protect historic agricultural uses of water and giving the tribe bare legal title to all of the Flathead Irrigation Project water, although they own only 10% of the lands that are served by the project. including a mutual defense clause requiring all three parties to the agreement to defend it against legal challenges, forcing citizens to defend their property rights against the deep pockets of three different governments, conveying financial immunity upon the state for any regulatory takings that could result from the ratification and implementation of the compact. A partial quantification of the claims in the CSKT Water Compact estimate the volume of water awarded to be at least 28 million acre-feet of water per year. This is 4 times more water than has been awarded to 32 other tribes in the United States combined. This number, however, could be much larger. The various abstracts in the appendices indicate that the amount of water controlled by the United States and CSKT could be as much as 48 million acre-feet of water per year. 99% of the water awarded to or controlled by the CSKT has a time immemorial priority date that effectively precludes all other uses of water. The Compact Commission touts the fact that the compact makes water available for future growth and development, thereby preventing basins from being closed. The reality is that the compact allows a total of 90,000 acre-feet of water for all growth and development forever into the future, and that water must be purchased from the tribe, and the tribe will decide who gets to use or purchase it. A 2014 DNRC report noted that consumptive uses of water make up less than 2% of the available water supply in the Clark Fork and Kootenai River basins. This includes domestic, municipal, industrial, agricultural, and commercial uses of water. So to all of this we ask one simple question. If the human use of water is so minuscule, why was it necessary for the state to protect existing uses of water? The answer? Because they gave nearly all of it with a time immemorial priority date to the United States and CSKT. Don't think for a moment that this won't have resounding negative effects as we move forward into the future. In addition to dozens of practical issues and problems with the compact, a multitude of legal and constitutional hurdles exist as well. Here are just a few. The Unitary Management Ordinance means that Montana water law no longer applies within reservation boundaries. This violates many provisions of the United States and Montana constitutions, including equal protection and due process. State attorneys have publicly stated that the compact awards the tribe bare legal title to 100% of Flathead irrigation project water, although 90% of the lands served by it are privately owned. Additionally, historic agricultural uses of irrigation water are not protected, and irrigators will experience a 40 to 70% reduction of water upon compact implementation. This amounts to an unconstitutional taking. To protect themselves, Montana gave itself immunity from any monetary damages resulting from the compact. The compact creates a new kind of reserved water right, giving the United States and CSKT time immemorial claims to vast amounts of water both on and off the reservation. In negotiating the compact, the state veered far away from federal reserved water rights standards, and if ratified, the compact will become the measuring stick that will be used by tribes around the country for negotiating their water claims. State and federal environmental policy laws were ignored by negotiators, and all parties failed to complete the economic and environmental impact studies necessary for a policy of this scope and magnitude. With so many problems, how did the state almost get the compact passed in the legislature? It began in 2012 when Senator Chaz Vincent approached the tribe and made a compact deal for his area of western Montana. Over the next 2 years, he skillfully maneuvered the compact through Water Policy Interim Committee hearings, using biased and incomplete studies as the foundation for his newly found support. In 2013, the governor used the veto of a bill to keep the compact alive after it was killed in the legislature. In 2014, Senator Bruce Flathead took funds from the tribe for his political action committee and explained to them that he and Representative Dan Solomon had a plan to take care of the 60-vote problem in the House, indicating they would use whatever means necessary to get the compact passed. Just ahead of the 2015 session, the governor and attorney general publicly announced a deal attempting to lend credibility to the compact. Both offices then actively participated in telephone calls and arm twisting to secure votes in the legislature. Fixing the 60-vote problem in the House was accomplished by changing House rules, and when that didn't work, they used a simple majority on the House floor to challenge and override rules that require a supermajority vote. The Montana Constitution requires a 2/3 vote for passage of bills that confer immunity on the state. Representative Steve Fitzpatrick resisted amendments to fix compact immunity language and to eliminate the 2/3 vote requirement. A simple majority vote was then used to pass the bill, attempting to ignore Montana's Constitution. We say the compact almost passed because it is currently under litigation for this reason. While we cannot know for sure that the courts will do the right thing by voiding the compact, the immunity language in the compact and the Constitution must be reconciled. Is this really how Montana wants to pass a 1,500-page forever document? By breaking all the rules and overriding the Constitution? Perhaps the most important legal question to ask is this: were homesteaders defrauded by the federal government when they were invited to settle these lands more than 100 years ago? The typical homestead flyer conveyed nothing of the problems we are facing today. Perhaps the flyers should have read, "The United States and State of Montana have determined that the Salish, Kootenai, and Pend Oreille tribes own all of the water to these lands, and will forever retain aboriginal title to them. For this reason, lands homesteaded through this program will be conveyed diminished water rights subject to the jurisdiction of the tribe." The courts have also determined that said tribes have access to use these lands whenever desired and for whatever purposes deemed to be related to sacred rituals, subsistence, or other purposes yet undefined. But that didn't happen. Homesteaders were told a far different story. Article 6 of the Treaty of Hellgate allowed for the opening and sale of reservation lands after an allotment process to individual tribal members. When it was opened, congressional and other references, including United States promotional flyers, referenced the former Flathead Indian Reservation. The irrigation project and the promise of productive agricultural land drew many to this area. Homesteaders had every reason to expect that their decision to relocate their families to this area and to complete the back-breaking work of clearing the land and developing it for agriculture would result in a patent to their land and ownership of the water rights that went along with it. There was no indication by the federal government that 150 years into the future, those water rights would be subservient to the overreaching claims of the federal government and the tribe, effectively making these landowners subject to the whims of these two entities. Unfortunately, the CSKT Water Compact accomplishes just that. Montanans no longer have the luxury of ignoring the Water Compact by thinking that it won't impact them. To do so will result in diminished property rights and values throughout western Montana, giving us little or nothing to pass along to future generations of our children and grandchildren. Contact the Montana Land and Water Alliance to see what you can do to help us stop the implementation of this compact and to defeat it in the courts if that becomes necessary. Call us at area code 406-552-3333 1357 or visit our website at www.landandwateralliance.com. Thank you.